decided to review the case and review the paperwork. On the issue of Dr. David Kelly, I thought the results of the inquest that were carried out and the report into it were fairly clear, and I don't think it's necessary to take that case forward.
Well, there we are. So we're joined now by Dr. Michael Powers, QC, a former coroner and one of those demanding a fresh inquest into David Kelly's death, and by the journalist David Aaronovitch, who's written a book called Voodoo Histories, the role of the conspiracy theory in shaping modern history. Welcome to you both. Michael Powers, there seem to be a number of arguments as to why you're calling for this. Can you just outline the main ones?
Yes, well, the principal one is that there was an insufficient inquiry. Lord Hutton's inquiry lasted for 24 days of evidence, and only about half a day of it actually dealt with the medical causes of death. And that has been the principal interest of the doctors who became involved in seeking a new inquiry.
So it's on medical grounds, but we'll come to the medical grounds in a moment, but there's also, you don't feel that the Prime Minister has a right to make that judgment.
Well, I think anyone seeing the PMQ clip which we've just seen would perhaps realise that the Prime Minister was really caught on the hop by Sir Peter. We all know that it's not the Prime Minister's opinion that is important, it's the Attorney General's opinion. And from our point of view, we don't see that he should be giving a political view on it at all. It's a legal decision in the end, not a matter of politics.
Returning to that medical evidence, you suggest that the injuries as described would not have led to his death. Now, you have vastly more medical experience than I do, but neither of us were there at the post-mortem or anything like that. Why then do you feel you've got a case? Or is it just that you haven't seen the medical report? That's the point.
No, we have seen the medical report. And of course, we've read all of the information in the public domain, which is on Lord Hutton's site.
So this is just a disagreement, really, between medics on interpretation of information?
It's perhaps rather more than that. There are many issues. In particular, if we take the hemorrhage issue for a start, now, there is conflicting evidence in respect to the hemorrhage issue, so much so that after the letter published by the doctors in August of last year, Dr. Hunt, who's the pathologist, writing or being reported in the Sunday Times, went on to explain about big, thick clots of blood being inside the Barber jacket. And he said it was in his report. It wasn't in his report. It wasn't given as evidence before Lord Hutton. It's obviously material to the issue of how much hemorrhage there was.
David, I'll come to you just very, very briefly. Does the Kelly family want you to do this, and does that matter?
I don't know whether or not the Kelly family wishes to do it.
You do?
Right, well,
David, you know that they don't.
No.
So is that not a very important point?
I don't believe that it's an important issue in any event. There are many families in this country that do not wish inquests into traumatic deaths.
No,
it's a question of law.
No, that may or may not be so, but it's interesting that in answer to a direct question, you actually gave an incorrect answer. You know perfectly well that the family don't want it. And you know that it was because of the family's reticence that Hutton decided in the first instance to seal up the post-mortem and other parts of the inquiry. The post-mortem was subsequently published. One of the doctors on your list of doctors who wrote the round robin last year, Dr. Julian Bion, then described himself as entirely satisfied with what the post-mortem said, and said that it answered all his questions.
Let's just reverse the point. Does it matter? I mean, of course, one should be sensitive to the family's wishes, but does that make Michael Powers wrong on the medical evidence because they don't want this to go forward?
It doesn't make Michael Powers wrong on the medical evidence. He's wrong on the medical evidence because he's not a forensic pathologist and he wasn't at the scene. And the reason why Dr. Julian Bion, part of his group, was able to say he was satisfied is because he's looked at the post-mortem evidence and decided that what the forensic pathologists and the coroner have had to say satisfies him.
Michael, that is not correct.
Yes, it is.
It isn't correct. Dr. Bion formed his opinion having read all the Hutton transcript. At that time, of course, the post-mortem report wasn't available, but the post-mortem report, which was subsequently disclosed, has had nothing to what Dr. Hunt said at that stage. What changed Dr. Bion's opinion was Dr. Hunt saying in the Sunday Times subsequently that there were large clots of blood inside the Barber jacket right the way down to the sleeve. And that was fresh evidence which changed the view of somebody giving an
Any one of the injuries or disease processes identified, had it existed by itself, would not have been sufficient itself to cause death. When you assemble it together, you get a different picture. The information provided satisfies me that this was suicide.
In the interest of time of being right across the board, I just want to move it away from the medical. If he didn't commit suicide, who killed him?
The issue here isn't what actually happened, what my view is, or David's view, or anybody else's view. The issue here is that there was not a sufficient inquiry into all of these matters. That is why all the questions have been raised. That is why Miles Scarslet in today's Mail has shown that there were examination of fingerprints actually on the dental records which cannot be eliminated to the staff, despite the fact that Acting Chief Constable Michael Page said in his evidence to Lord Hutton that all of the fingerprints had been eliminated. That clearly misled that inquiry just on that point alone.
Does this fill in with what you think of, traditional conspiracy
Well,
theories?
yeah, I mean, because in any of these inquiries there are always what people call anomalies, and it doesn't really matter what the case is, there will always be when subjected to this degree of scrutiny. What you have here from Michael Powers is what I think you could describe as violent innocence, the psychoanalyst would call it, which is, I'm only asking the question, I'm not saying anything, I'm not suggesting anything, when actually almost certainly he, like the majority of people who signed his letter, actually believe that Tony Blair connived in the cover-up of the murder of David Kelly by persons unknown, as Norman Baker, a minister in the current government, who will not discuss this issue.
I have a feeling you will be doing this after we run out of time. Conspiracy or not, yes or no?
I think probably not, but it's too many spook films. We want to believe it's going on.
And we want to know what the answer is. We want to know what the answer
I'll tell you
is.
what the answer is right now. We've run out of time. That's
Indeed.
the answer. Thanks to all of our guests. We're going to be back at 12 o'clock tomorrow. All the big political stories of the day.
And we'll be joined by the American economist Owen Stelzer. So do join us for that.
Bye.